Development is investing $8 million to connect small businesses to operating capital. The Small Business Capital Access Program will lower the cost of Washington State Small Business Flex Fund loans by paying down 25% of the loan principal. Eligible small businesses can borrow up to $150,000 with a 4% interest rate to cover expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, and supplies.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Neftali, Rainier Avenue Radio World, the best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Neftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio World. Mom, right?
Hello, listener. What's important to you about what's going on in your community? Are you interested? Are you concerned? In any case, I invite you to tune into my show, Seattle Here and Now, on Rainier Avenue Radio World. Why? I will be covering a wide range of topics important to you and impacting the community. Each show will have a special guest or guests to share with you information on a variety of subjects that are happening here and now in Seattle. I promise I will work hard to make my show informative, interesting, and entertaining. Be sure to listen to Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Celebrate Black History Month at the Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum, formerly Columbia City Theater, 4916 Rainier Avenue South. Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum features exhibits and installations. It's a guided tour. Installations include the Seattle Black Panther Party, the Black Heritage Society of Washington, the Rainier Cinema Black Movie, Jimi Hendrix Family Installation, the Seattle Griot Project, BlackPass.org, the Hartsfield Family Slave, the Seattle Black Firefighters, an exhibit of the Seattle Black Elected Officials, Tacoma's Buffalo Soldiers Museum, Keith Flywright Williams Photography Collection, the Royal Esquires, a Negro League baseball display featuring the Seattle Steelheads. Of course, there will be your community keepsakes and memorabilia. Tuesdays through Sundays from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. There will be no other location where you can celebrate the achievements and the achievers of the Pacific Northwest and Seattle while recognizing the Black excellence that shines today. For more information, visit RainierAvenueRadio.world or call 206-290-9685.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not being reprimanded by traffic cops, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Hello there, world. Bettina Carey here, and I am the founder and CEO of We Empower You, the global community, and WeEmpowerYourLife.com, the website. We're live on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. And if you've been looking for a way to shatter your glass ceilings, you've come to the right place. And for those of you who are new to us, I am, as I said, the founder of this great community called We Empower You. It's an online community of like-minded people from all around the world. And it's designed for coaches, authors, speakers, and thought leaders. And I cannot wait to share more about it with you. I'm also an empowerer by nature, and I want everyone, and that includes entrepreneurs, as I said, and coaches, and leaders, especially service-based businesses, to shatter their revenue glass ceilings right down to the floor. So if you're looking for a way to shatter yours, you're in the right place, as I said. My goal is to leave you with a lasting impression that impacts the world, and I'm helping folks to shatter glass ceilings. And today I have with me a very special guest because he's an empowerer too. And he's going to be sharing with us the importance of self-defense as it relates to empowerment. Scott Craig is a Taekwondo 5th Dan Black Belt Master Instructor. He's competed in full contact Olympic sparring nationally. His school is Seattle Taekwondo Academy in Normandy Park, Washington, for the last several decades, and he has taught thousands of children, teens, and adults. He has graduated 66 of those to 1st Dan Black Belts and 18 advanced level Black Belts. He developed a self-defense program called Empowering Self-Defense, and the program has 7 basic moves and 4 releases that he's been teaching thousands of people in seminars and school PE programs. Empowering Self-Defense programs is now being developed into a Black Belt program for those who want to learn more and become trained in the art of self-defense. And self-defense is a part of it all empowerment. And I was reflecting with Scott yesterday that there came a time when I was moving in the summer of 2022, and I stepped into my garage to do some work. I was in the very far back, and someone stepped into my garage by about 2 feet and scared me to death pretty much. And I was able to, with some very specific self-defense, energetic work, to get them to leave the garage. And it didn't matter what they were there for. I didn't want them there. And it was a male. And I was in the far back of the garage. And had I not had these self-defense programs, I may not have been able to address this potential threat on my person as effectively. So welcome, Scott. It's going to be a great conversation to have with you here today. And I'm looking forward to it with a lot of excitement.
Thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. You look fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
I love it when guests come in and their lighting and everything is all just perfect. And yours is for sure. So, I don't know what ever got you into this line of work, but one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what is one of the most important things that you think about when you think about your own self-defense?
Well, I think you have to be ready you have to be aware of your surrounding constantly. And if you're aware of your surroundings, whether you leave your home, you leave your business, you leave the store, you have to have your eyes up and you have to be looking around to see if there's anybody that's at your car, around your house. And awareness is the most important thing, because if you're aware and you see the potential threat, then you can avoid before you have to defend yourself. And basically it comes to the philosophy of fighting without fighting. If you can win the fight without ever having to engage in it, that's the best type of fighting. That comes right from Sun Tzu rules of war. So, and that's the most important thing for not only males. I recently had my knee operated on and I was on crutches and I was slow. And I mean, talk about being vulnerable. I couldn't even get out of a way of a fast shopping cart if it was coming at me. So I had to be really careful before I made any moves. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing, is to be aware front and center.
Yes. And I would add to that try not to put yourself in circumstances where you could be a victim. And although I was aware that going into my garage in this part of the community was a little bit of a risk, I'd lived there for about 9 years and I had no choice but to work in that space. And so when this gentleman, who was a homeless person, just walked right in, all he was asking for was a bottle of water. I found myself, being the nice person I am, wanting to say, oh, yes, here's a bottle of water. But the part of me that was scared and frightened did exactly what I needed to do, which was to energetically and with my words ask him to leave, right? And then then once I calmed down, I thought, well, gosh, I could have given him a bottle of water. But the reality is I also could have been harmed in that same moment, right? So it's not just being aware of your surroundings. It's also trying to not put yourself in those kind of circumstances in the first place.
Exactly.
And I certainly could have invited somebody to be with me in that garage. And I had for all those years. I'd always, invited my son or his wife or my granddaughter or anybody to just be with me during the time I was down there. But this was just one of those times. And, there was another circumstance that happened when I was going out of the same building, and I was opened my garage electronically, and I was walking from the door to the garage, and I plunked my suitcases next to the car. And this guy on a scooter just quickly, rushed right into my line of sight and offered to put my bags in the car at 3:30 in the morning. Of course, I said no. But again, it was one of those energetic blasts that he got, more than even the words I said. The look on my face, the energy I gave it, and as small as I am, I'm 4'9.5", I was actually able to communicate very clearly, don't mess with me. So that is part of the answer, is being aware, but also not putting yourself in those kinds of circumstances if you can help it.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit. I know Susan's not able to join us here today after all. I know you're partners in life and partners in this business. Can you bring a little bit of a framework to how you work together to offer the Taekwondo classes and other self-defense training to both children and women in particular, as well as men?
Well, yes. I mean, we've been teaching together for several decades, and, primarily teaching students from white belts to black belts. And part of the training to become a black belt is extensive self-defense training. And, we've been teaching in public schools and private schools for several decades. And we basically always did kind of a self-defense seminar. And 3 years ago, my friend Blake Messer, who's also one of our Taekwondo black belt dads, he decided, that we should make a foundation and actually teach within the Highline School District. And so we started doing seminars, and we hit upon the basic 7 moves that everybody should learn. And these are universal to all martial arts. I mean, you have to have a good stance. You have to be able to be ready to move, because the first and best weapon is your feet to be able to run, to get away, right?
Right.
If the guy's too big or there's too many of them, beat feet and get out of there. You don't have to stand and fight. Discretion is always the best. And so you need a good stance, and then you need to learn how to block, block your head, block your body. And so that's the second move, is blocking. And then the third move is punching, how to be able to strike and make a solid fist, because if you don't know how to make a fist, you're just going to hurt your hand. So, and then
since folks are actually watching, let's go ahead and demonstrate. How do you actually make a fist? It's not like this.
Make a fist. Where is it here? You want to make your hand as small and tight as possible, and put your thumb. I can't see where my fist is on the camera.
Just put it closer to your face. Higher.
Right there.
There you go.
Okay, turn. You can see that my thumb is across my fingers, and there's no empty spot right here. You want to make your fist strong. If your fist is like this and your fingers are up like this, you're just going to hurt yourself. So you need to roll your fingers and put your thumb across your thumbs like that. And then you hit with only these 2 knuckles over here. First 2 knuckles right here.
Your index finger and your middle finger knuckles,
right?
Right.
Those are the only parts that you strike with. So that's the third one. And then the fourth is learning how to use your elbows, elbow striking. And there's 4 or 5 different ways to elbow strike. And then we teach them how to use their knees effective so that they can grab and knee. And then they learn how to be able to do a 2-handed push to get the person away from you. And then you learn how to do a front kick. So 7 basic moves. And all of these moves are predicated on the distance of the attacker. So if the guy, if they have a hold of you and you can't kick them because they're too close, then that's when you use your elbows and your knees. And then if they're further out, then you can punch, push. And then when they're furthest out, then you can kick. So depending on the distance of the perpetrator towards you, that decides which of these moves that you use. And then we also teach 4 basic releases. So when somebody grabs you, how to get away. And the best way is to learn how to rotate into the thumb area, because that's your weakest part of the grip. And so that's where the formula came up with 7 moves and 4 releases. And we would do these seminars. It takes about 2 hours, and you can teach all 7 of these moves. You can learn them. I mean, it takes a lot longer than that to become an expert. And that's why we've decided to, we've designed an online program. We have 18 videos. It's a 40-minute program. And Blake Messer is helping us We're building a website called empoweringselfdefense.com, and that soon will be live, and people can buy that online that don't live locally. And then we're also going to have a empowering self-defense class within our dojang where we teach, and the women are going to learn, fitness. They're going to learn the basics of martial arts, kickboxing, self-defense, the forms, so that they can practice regularly and get better and stronger, because you never know when you're going to have to use this. In fact, I had to use self-defense last night in my own dojang. I had a group of 5 teenagers tried to rush in and take over our class while we had 35 kids and about another 20 parents. They just rushed in and tried to be little criminals. And right away, I saw which one was the leader, and I got right up into him, and I told him to leave. And of course, he tried to argue because he wanted to just get in there and kind of disrupt the whole class. And I just got him out the door, and the rest of them followed. And then I got several dads posted right at the entrance. I said, "Look, you guys are the bouncers. Just don't let these teenagers come in." So, and I just used my voice power, the strength of my character, and immediately just kind of pounced on him verbally to get him out of there, because I didn't want to have to put my hands on him, because then it could have caused all kinds of problems. But I had to use my black belt self-defense powers yesterday. So you never know when you're going to have to use it.
That's exactly it. And practice makes perfect, right? So how can folks tap into your program that you're developing? How can they reach you? Give us the details.
The easiest way is to go online and search out Seattle Taekwondo Academy.com, and you can click on a free trial lesson, and then it has different little categories, and you can click on kickboxing, self-defense, and that sends your information to us, and then we can contact you after that. So Seattle Taekwondo Academy.com.
Seattle Taekwondo Academy.com. And for those of you who are listening or watching and you're not familiar with the spelling, it's Taekwondo. And I'm also going to ask you another question that came to my mind as I was reading your bio. You say that you're a 5th Dan Black Belt Master Instructor. What does the Dan stand for?
Well, Dan is the level when you first get your black belt, you're a first Dan. Dawn.
Okay.
And also, that's an adult level. So if you're under 16 years old, you're actually a Poom belt. So kids that get their black belt and they're younger than 16, they're called a first Poom. And then once they're over 16, then they can be a Dan, because a black belt is an adult thing. So, but we have kids that started training with us when they were 5 years old. And, by the time they're 14, 15, they've been doing this for 10 years. And so they've acquired the abilities to be a black belt, but they're still not an adult. So that's kind of the designation, whether it's karate or Taekwondo. A first Dan is a beginning black belt, your first black belt. And then you can train another 2 to 3 years as a black belt. And then you can train and test again and get another black belt, and then you're a second Dan. And then you can train another 3 to 4 years again, take another test, and then you can become a third Dan.
Wow.
And then 4 or 5 more years, then you can become a fourth Dan. And that's kind of where you are considered a master instructor. You have to be at least a fourth Dan. And then 4 or 5 more years after that, then you can get your fifth Dan. And so Susan and I both have that rank. We actually have 3 black belts in Korean karate, which is very karate based. So we have black belts in karate and in Taekwondo.
Wow.
And of course, we've trained, I wrestled all through high school when I was in junior high, and I took judo in college. I was on a boxing team. So we've got to do all kinds of different martial arts because you just don't want to do one. You want to be able to do all the different. It's like dancing. You want to be able to dance all the different dances, right? That's kind of what martial arts are. Every country has its own martial art.
Yeah, it's interesting. The whole martial arts world. We had Nick Diaz in town from another client that Blake and I share, and it was actually Blake's client. And I was just helping along with the PR, and that's a whole nother level of mixed martial arts, right? And
well, he's a professional fighter.
Yes.
He did the mixed martial arts, which is, in the octagon, and you have to be really committed because that's, you can get hurt.
Somebody's going to get hurt. Some buddies often get hurt, right, in that environment.
Right. I mean, in our classes, we train a lot, but it's controlled, and we try, you're always going to have little bumps and bruises and little injuries, but we're not going to, it's controlled before people get their arms broken and their nose broken and their legs broken. But when you're a professional fighter in those MMA fights, that's what people are there to see is the blood, right?
Yeah. Somebody's got to win in those environments, right? Because there's money on the table and everything. They're fighting to win. And when my son was just a young kid, he was bullied quite a bit. And so one of the things that I did was to put him into a martial arts program, and it really helped build yet another skill that we all should have, and that is confidence and self-confidence. His self-esteem went up. And just the idea that, somebody who's smaller framed could actually feel confident enough to take on somebody bigger than themselves if they had to was worth the investment of both time and money. And to this day, I believe that it's helped him to be more confident inside, that he knows he can defend himself if he had to.
Well, I'm the oldest of 6 children, so I was pretty much put in charge of everybody's defense, as my dad would say. And I didn't like getting beat up. I didn't like getting bullied. So I started learning and training early, but teaching martial arts for several decades, the byproduct of all these students is they gain confidence, whether it's in fitness, because the better shape you get in, the more confident you're gonna be. The more that you know how to punch and kick and move, you're going to get more confidence. The more the shy kids that have trouble with strong eye contact, when they can look me in the eye and say, good afternoon, Mr. Craig, or when they can talk to me with their eyes and their voice, and they start to speak up, because being a black belt is part of it is becoming a leader. And you have to stand up in front of the class. You have to lead in warm-ups and in the basic moves. And I make all those little kids count and voice their power in front of the whole class. And you see these little kids that are super quiet at first, but given time, they start to speak louder and louder, and they find their voice. And once you find your voice, you find your confidence, and then that stays with you the rest of your life.
Isn't that fantastic? I mean, I have to say that just gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. So give us a couple of examples. I know, again, Susan isn't here with us, but whenever you train together, you always give examples of females who found themselves in situations that have just taken your class or took it a while back. Like, I've taken it, I think, 2 or 3 times. Give us some of those situations that people might benefit from hearing about.
Well, I mean, we talk about, developing your voice power, your ki, and we had one woman that she called us up several months after one of our seminars, and she goes, my ki saved me. And so she told us the story that somebody was climbing in a window in her house, and he was halfway in the window, and she just went up to him and just key-eyed right in his face as loud as she could, scared the guy, and he went back out the window, and she shut the window. So that saved her right there. We had another, one of our students, one of our teenagers, she took a job at Starbucks, and she was probably about 19 years old, and she was going after her shift. It was in the evening, I think at 10 or 11 o'clock in a Safeway parking lot. She went to her car, and as she put the key in the car, somebody grabbed her from behind and flipped her around and started putting his hands inside her clothes. And she was completely shocked. And then all of a sudden she remembered, I got to get this guy off me. So she elbowed him, she kneed him, he went down to the ground, he got up, she gave him a good kick, and then she was able to get her key into the car. I mean, her hand was shaking, but she got into her car and shut the door and locked it. But it took her about a month before she came in and told us the story. And I hadn't seen her in probably 6 months, and she came into the dojang and she said hi, and I just thought she was coming to visit. And then she went over to Susan because being a woman, she told her story to Susan right away, and she said what she learned in our class saved her. And even though she was caught off guard, because sometimes you can do everything right and not see the perpetrator, but they can get the drop on you, and then that's when you have to learn how to use the 7 moves and the 4 releases and defend yourself.
That's a great story. I'm thankfully it turned out really great too, because she had the training like just in the nick of time, right? So last question, and then give again how folks can get a hold of you. What is the most important thing to do in a self-defense situation?
Well, you have to be aware of your surroundings so that you could avoid trouble. I mean, that's the first and foremost. And then, like you said, don't put yourself in dangerous situations. So when you park your car, make sure you're under a street light. But then the second thing is, when you are in trouble, you have to recognize that I'm in trouble and I have to react. Just like when you were in the garage and that guy came in and you realized that you were vulnerable, you immediately acted and you went after him with the strength of your power, because whether physical force is necessary or not, to be able to control a situation with the strength of your mind and your character, that's the most important thing in a human encounter. So, and you did that because you got him out of there right away. You recognized that you were in trouble and you took action with your voice and your strong eyes and your character and your energy. He didn't want any part of you.
No, and in fact, I walked towards him, and instead of away, I walked right towards him, and he just immediately saw that I was nobody to mess with, and left this scene, so to speak. But wow, what a great opportunity to talk about empowerment, self-empowerment, confidence, all the things that I know women out there watching are going to be listening for. And by the way, there are men in your classes, children as well. And,
teenagers, boys and girls,
you name it. So thank you so much for joining us here, Scott. Again, how can folks get a hold of you?
Going online, and you can look us up at Seattle Taekwondo Academy.com, and then click on a free trial lesson, and then that will direct you to us. Send us an email, and then we can contact you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Scott. All right. Our next show coming up is the Reggae Hour, episode 139. Thanks, everyone, for listening and or watching. Shattering the Glass Ceiling is live on Thursdays, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Rainier Avenue World at RainierAvenueRadio.world. And we're all about life-changing conversations. So join us. We'll see you next week. Bye for now, everybody. 2022 has been challenging for all of us. I believe the answer to the question, what's next, is together. I'm Bettina Carey, founder of WeEmpowerYourLife.com. And with the help of thought leaders, newsmakers, and game changers, I'm working to build a community of trust, and you're invited. If you have felt the pains of loneliness and anxiety in this unprecedented time of isolation, We Empower Your Life offers fellowship, mentors, and guides to help you avoid life's roadblocks, and get to now faster. Are you concerned about your future in the face of possible recession? We Empower Your Life challenges you to think in abundance mindset. And we're all working to take our finances from good to great. You won't be alone on this trip. We Empower Your Life features entrepreneurs, coaches, startups, and community leaders from around the globe, all reaching for that next rung and looking to help someone else up as well. We do not think we have all the answers, but we do think together we can ask all the right questions. I've decided to thrive in the face of turmoil, and I want you to thrive too. Do that by claiming one of the first 200 free tickets, courtesy of gracious sponsored underwriting. Tickets and information are weempoweryourlife.com or scan the code if you're watching on TV. We'll see you at the summit.